Hi everybody, this is Bonnie Barker with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I want to show you how to make the Inishmann Poncho. Let me go ahead and show you some better pictures of this right here. For this project, I'm going to be using Berroco's Vintage yarn. And let's take a look at what this consists of. This is 52% acrylic, 40% wool, 8% nylon. This is a number 4 or a medium weight yarn. If you want to use another type of number 4 weight yarn, please feel free to do that. Each of these hanks has approximately 3.5 ounces or 100 grams. That equates to 218 yards or 200 meters. The number of hanks that I will be using will be listed right across the bottom of the screen for you. I'm also recommending that you have a size 10 or J or 6.00 millimeter crochet hook or hook that you need in order to obtain the correct gauge, which is found in the written pattern. And as always, I am suggesting that you have a pair of sharp scissors and a yarn needle handy. I'm also recommending that you have a measuring tool available as well. To begin, we're going to start with a slip knot. And I'm going to be using a starting chain of 122 stitches. And make sure you chain these on the looser side. If you tend to crochet your chains very tightly, I recommend that you bump up to a larger size hook and then back down to your gauge hook after that. Once you have your 122 chains, we're ready to start row 1. We're going to start in the second chain from the hook, and we're going to work a single crochet in this stitch and in each stitch or chain all the way across. I am working in the side of the chain, which is my personal preference. And since we're going to be working a perimeter round, which will cover the remainder of the starting chain, it just is the easiest way to go about this. So I just wanted to let you know that in case you are one who likes to work in the back bump of the chain. Feel free to do this however you wish. It's just that the chain will not be a part of what is seen when we put the panels together. At the end of row 1, you should have a total of 121 stitches. Let's go ahead and turn. Chain 1 to start row number 2. Now row number 2 is going to be the first row of the LFR or low front ridge. And for this stitch, we're only going to work in the front loops. I'm going to skip the first stitch, but we will be working in the turning chain, so the stitch count will remain the same. Okay, so in the next stitch, we're going to work a slip stitch. And let me just explain, one reason for skipping this stitch is the chain 1 acts as a stitch in front of this stitch. So visually, it avoids a little bump or a nub on the end of the row. So go ahead and work slip stitches, again working only in that front loop. This is going to make a beautiful ridge to frame our upcoming cables with. So go ahead and work this all the way to the end of the row. And as we come to the end of row 2, which again is row 1 of the low front ridge, we're going to go ahead and work a slip stitch in that turning chain, and then we're going to turn chain 1, and now working in the remaining loop from row 1, we're going to work row 3. I know this is going to sound confusing. This is going to be row 3 of the entire panel, but it's going to be row 2 of the low front ridge. And what we do is we work a single crochet worked in that remaining loop, just like this. So go ahead and work 1 single crochet in each of those remaining loops. And no, we do not work in the turning chain. We just start in the very first single crochet, and our stitch count will remain constant at 121 stitches in a row. That is not including the turning chain as a stitch as far as the stitch count goes. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish that, and you'll have this nice beautiful ridge once you complete row 3. This is what you should have at the end of row 3, and we're going to turn and we're going to take a look at that lovely ridge that we've made. Now on to row number 4, and this is where we begin the cable stitch. Go ahead and work a chain 1, single crochet in the first stitch. After this, we are going to work a chain 3, skip the next 2 stitches, single crochet in that next stitch. So this is what you should have at this point. Now we're going to turn and we're going to work in each of those chain 3s, work along just one side of those V's. So that's 1, 2, we're working single crochets, 3, and now we're going to work a slip stitch in that very first single crochet that was made in the row, slip stitch. Now we're going to turn again and pulling, make sure you bring this down in front, and you have those 2 stitches that we skipped. We're going to work single crochets in those spaces right now. And that completes the first cable. Let me do this for you a couple more times. Chain 3. Now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches that have not been worked in. Single crochet in that next stitch. Turn to work in those chains. Single crochet in each chain, and don't try to find the back bump. Just work along the side chain, the side of the chain like I'm doing here. Slip stitch in that next single crochet. Now you can turn again. I'll show you how a different way that you can turn in the next one, but turn again and bringing this down so that you can see the 2 stitches that we skipped. Work single crochets in each of those stitches so you can see this starting to form. Let's go ahead. I'm going to do one more. Chain 3, skip the next 2 stitches, single crochet in that next stitch, turn to work in the chains, 1 single crochet in each of those chains, slip stitch in that next stitch. Okay, and then we can turn. Now when you turn and turn and turn in the same direction, as the piece gets bigger, that gets a little more cumbersome. So another way that you can turn to work in these 2 stitches is you can bring the yarn behind the hook, and that way you can turn counterclockwise. And again, you're getting to the same place. It's just a different way so that you're not continuously turning and turning and turning. You can flip one direction and then the other. And single crochet in those 2 stitches. Let's try that one again. There we go. So that is the cable stitch. So go ahead and work this all the way across, and I'll show you how this ends. I'm going to work this last cable with you just so that you understand how this row ends. We do our chain 3, skip 2 stitches, and we're working in the last stitch before the turning chain, and we're just completing those 3 single crochets in the chain, and then we work a slip stitch. I'm going to bring this to the back and work those 2 stitches in the 2 stitches that we skipped, and then I'm going to work a single crochet in the same place as the last cable was anchored. And so you should have a total of 40 of these cables. Okay, now let's go ahead and turn. And this is row 2 of the cable stitch. We're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the first single crochet, and we're going to work 2 single crochets in the next one, and then 1 single crochet in that next stitch. And again, 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and you may have to pull back this cable a little bit to see the single crochet. 1 single crochet in the next stitch. I'm going to do this again. Just want to make sure you see where I am working these stitches. 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and then 1 in the next. So I'm going to turn and show you this. So essentially, we are working 3 single crochets behind each of the cables as we go across. So go ahead and work that. Again, repeating the 2 single crochets, then 1, 2 single crochets, and then 1, all the way across, and I'll show you how this row ends. After working those all the way across, we're going to work our last stitch in the chain 1 space, which is right here. Okay, so that should bring us back to 121 stitches. Now we're going to turn, and I'm going to give you a small assignment because these are stitches that we've already done. So for rows 6 through 9, we're going to repeat the 2 rows of the low front ridge, so that'd be rows 2 and 3, and also the 2 cable rows, so that's 4 and 5. So repeat rows 2 through 5 once more, so that will be creating another low front ridge, just like we did here, and then work those 2 rows, and then work 2 rows of the cable stitch that I just finished showing you. And then after you do that, for rows 10 and 11, repeat rows 2 and 3 again, which is, once again, the low front ridge. I'm going to go ahead and start you on row 6, just as a reminder, and then I'm just going to have you go ahead and work those rows 6 through 11. Just remember, when you start this, you skip the first stitch, and working only in the front loops, we work the slip stitches all the way across, and including the chain 1 space. And then coming back, we just work in the remaining loops. And then, so go ahead and do that. And again, like I said, rows 4 and 5, and then repeat rows 2 and 3 once more. I'll show you what I have once I complete this. This is what you should have after completing 11 rows. Now we're ready to move on to the Celtic weave portion. And this is row number 12. It's also row number 1 of the Celtic weave. We're going to start with a chain 2. We're going to double crochet in the same stitch, or the first stitch. Okay, after that we're going to wrap our hook twice for a front post treble. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and the third stitch we're going to work a front post treble crochet. And yes, you can work these around the single crochets. You just wrap the hook around the post just the way you would any stitch. So we do that in the first, or the third and the fourth stitches. Working in front of those 2 stitches, we're going to work a front post treble in this stitch and then in this stitch. So let's go ahead and do the first skipped stitch, and then the second skipped stitch. And that makes up your 4-post Celtic cross that makes up the Celtic weave. So let's do this again. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble in each of the next 2 stitches. That's 1 and the next one. That's 2. Working in front of these 2 post stitches, we're going to work a front post treble in this stitch and then in this stitch. Okay, so we're going to work this all the way across the row, and you should have 30 sets of this 4-stitch post, which make up the Celtic crosses. So go ahead and work that, and I'll show you how the row ends. So after working this all the way across, you again should have 30 sets of the 4 stitches that are crossed. I'm going to work another double crochet in the same place as the last stitch. You should have 122 stitches in this row, and that is not counting the chain 2 at the beginning. Okay, so now we're going to turn. So now to begin row 13, which is also row 2 of the Celtic weave, we start with a chain 2. We're going to work a double crochet in that very first stitch, which is the double crochet from the last row. And then we're going to work 2 back post trebles over the next 2 stitches. So back post treble over those next 2 stitches. Make sure you don't skip any stitches before you work those 2 stitches. Okay, so the first stitch, again, double crochet, and then back post treble, back post treble. Now we start skipping stitches. We're going to skip the next 2, and in the next 2 stitches we're going to work a back post treble, and these are the stitches that are on top of the last row. So work those 2 back post treble crochets. Now, working in front of these as seen from the front side, so it's going to cross in the front with the front side facing. Of course, right now we have the back side facing, so the hook is going to come around, and you're going to wrap it around the first stitch that was skipped, and we complete the back post treble, and then we do that again, and the other stitch is here. From this side, you can see it here. This is probably the most complicated part of this stitch. Definitely use the nerve endings in your finger and thumb to help you find these. So that is going to be the repeat across. Skip the next 2 stitches, back post treble in the next 2 stitches. Remember, these are the ones that are on the top of the last row. And working in front of these as seen from the front side. So we're going to bring the hook around. And again, it's coming in the back side around this stitch, which was the second stitch that was skipped. Okay, so we're going to work this all the way across the row, and I will show you how the row ends. After working these all the way across the row, you're going to have 2 stitches left plus that double crochet. So we're going to work back post treble crochets over those last 2 post stitches, and then a double crochet in the top of that double crochet. So let's go ahead and turn, and this is what the front side should look like. And you'll notice that on both ends you'll have these extra 2 stitches, and that's because you have 29 sets of the 4 post clusters and then 2 stitches here, and then 2 stitches on the other end that make up that 30th cluster. Okay, obviously they're not crossed when you're doing this on the back side, but these stitches that you're going to see are going to go kind of take a turn and then be included in the next grouping on the next row. Now for rows 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, we're going to continue working in the Celtic weave pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to repeat rows 12 and 13 2 more times, and then repeat row 12 once again. I'll go ahead and start you off. So now we're ready to begin row 14. We started off with a chain 2, and then we're going to work a double crochet in that very first stitch. And now going forward with the post stitches, we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and we're going to front post treble in the next 2, just the way we did on row 12, but it's a lot easier to see what we're doing now that the Celtic weave has been established. Now working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in those last 2 stitches that we just skipped. And we're just going to do this all the way across, skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2, and so on and so forth. Working in front of those 2 stitches, this is where it may look a little bit different. You're going to front post treble in these 2 stitches. Now they're a little bit hidden, so you do need to make sure that you find them, again, using the nerve endings in your finger and thumb. And the first one is right here. And the next one right beside it. Let me go ahead and pause a minute. And I want you to look and see how these 2 stitches here, which were at the end of row 13, have now been joined into this first 4-stitch Celtic cross cluster, and you see how this is going to turn and go, just continue on into the woven work. Okay, so go ahead and finish. This will finish in the same way that row 12 finished. So go ahead and work those additional 5 rows of the Celtic weave. If you need stitch support, you can look back. I'll put a little time mark across the bottom, and you can look at row 12 again and 13 should you need help with that. This is what you should have after working the 7 rows of the Celtic weave. And let me show you an easy way to count. You can always count by the end stitches to make sure you have enough, but it's easier to count by the crosses. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we're going to work the row to discontinue the Celtic weave. So we're going to turn. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2. Now this is where we're also going to get back onto the stitch count of 121 stitches. Currently we have 122 stitches. After this row, we'll have 121, and the way we do that is we're going to skip this first stitch, and we're just going to work back post double crochets over each stitch across. So go ahead and work that across the row, and I'll show you how this row ends. At the end of row 19, we work 1 double crochet in that last double crochet. We do not work in the turning chain, and that will bring you back to 121 stitches in a row. This is what you should have after completing 19 rows. Now I have another assignment for you for rows 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. We are going to repeat again rows 2 and 3, which are the low front ridge, 4 and 5, which are the cable rows, and then 6 and 7, which again is a repeat of rows 2 and 3, the low front ridge. So go ahead and work those 6 rows again and work it on this side. And then I will show you what I have. This will again take you from rows 20 through 25. If you need stitch support, definitely look across the bottom of the screen, and I will put the time mark where you can go back to review those rows. After completing 25 rows, this is what you should have. Now for row 26, we're going to be working the large honeycomb, and we're going to work these stitches in through the top loops, not as post stitches for this row. Go ahead and chain 3. We're going to skip the first 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to work a treble in each of the next 2 stitches. Like that. Now we're going to work behind these 2 stitches, and we're going to work a treble in the second stitch that was skipped, and then the third stitch that was skipped. And if you're not sure where these loops are, you can pull those other trebles down and it reveals them right there. And the second one. Now we're going to skip 2 more stitches, 1, 2, and we're going to treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. Now working in front of these last 2 stitches, we're going to treble in the 2 stitches that were skipped. First, this one, the one that's furthest away, and then this one. And so we've kind of made a large V, which is going to be the bottom part of the honeycomb, and we're going to work that 8 stitch repeat all the way across. So let me go ahead and do this again, because now that we're no longer near the end, we only skip 2. 1, 2, and we treble crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, working behind those 2 stitches. We're going to treble in the 2 stitches that were just skipped. And for the second part, we're going to skip 2 more stitches, treble crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And now working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to treble into the 2 stitches that we just skipped. And this is what you're going to be forming, these large V's as you go across the row. So go ahead and work this all the way across, and I'll show you how the row ends. After working this all the way across the row, I have worked a total of 15 sets of the 8 stitch pattern that I showed you. And at the end, we're going to go ahead and work a double crochet. You can work it in the same place as the last stitch or in that chain, however you'd like, but do work a double crochet, and that will be the last stitch of the row. This is also a good time to check this row to make sure visually that the V's are formed properly. It's easy to get these stitches, you know, swapped around, and you probably won't notice that until after you've finished another row or 2. So go ahead and do a visual check on that. After we do that, we're ready to go on to row 27, which we're going to start with a chain 2 this time. We're going to skip the first stitch, and we're going to work back post double crochets in each stitch across. So go ahead and do that. And again, the stitch count should remain constant at 121 stitches in a row. At the end of the row, work a double crochet into the turning chain. Let's go ahead and take a look at the front side. So now we're ready to begin the next row, and this is row 28. We're going to complete the honeycomb. Go ahead and chain 3. We're going to skip the first stitch and the next 2 stitches, and we're going to work 2 front post treble crochets, 1 in each of the next stitches, and then working in front of these 2 stitches, we'll work front post treble crochets in the 2 stitches that we skipped. So now on the other side, skip the next 2 stitches. We're going to front post treble crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. Working behind those 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble crochet in this stitch and then in this stitch. We come into the hole back behind here, and this is the first stitch and the next stitch, again coming in through the hole, and this is the stitch. Again, use the nerve endings in your thumb and finger to find which is the proper stitch. And we now have the honeycomb shape completed. And I'm going to do that for you one more time in case there's anybody out there who has never seen this before. Skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches, front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped, and skip the next 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, and finally working behind those 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in this stitch and then in this stitch. And we're going to do that again. And we have the second honeycomb completed. So go ahead and work that across the row. At the end of row 28, we work a double crochet into the turning chain. And this is what you should have after 28 rows. Now for row 29, we're simply going to turn, chain 1, and we're going to start with the first stitch and work 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way across, and again maintaining that 121 stitch count. I've worked this all the way across, and I just wanted to be very clear, I am not working in the turning chain. I'm just stopping that last stitch, which is stitch number 121, in the last treble crochet. So let's go ahead and turn and take a look at what we have, because I'm going to give you a very large assignment. Okay, so this is the center of the panel. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to work rows. So now we're going to go back and we are going to repeat rows 6, which starts with the low front ridge, row 1. So rows 6 through 25. So that will take us through 2 rows of the low front ridge 2 rows of the cable, 2 rows of the low front ridge, all of the Celtic weave section, including the row to discontinue the Celtic weave, 2 rows again of the low front ridge, 2 rows of the cable, and 2 rows again of the low front ridge. So that will cover rows 30 through 49 in this design. Now if you need stitch support to go back to row 6 and do all of this again, go ahead and look at the across the bottom, and you will see a number there for the time mark where you can go back. And then after you complete those rows, we're going to give you another assignment. Then after you complete these 20 rows, we're going to repeat rows 4, 5, and 6, and 7 one more time, so that when you complete the other side, you're going to have 2 rows of cables with the 3 rows, or 3 sets rather, of the low front ridge. Okay? So that way, when you complete the last row, you're going to have 2 cables with the low front ridges bordering them on the other side. So go ahead and complete those rows, and then I will show you what I have. Now we're going to begin the perimeter round, and we're going to start that with the front side facing, and I did not disconnect the yarn from creating the panel. We're just going to continue from that last row, which was a row 2 of the low front ridge. So go ahead and chain 1. We're going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch until we get to the next corner. After working those single crochets along that side, we're going to turn 90 degrees. I'm going to chain 2 for the chain 2 corner, and I'm going to work 1 single crochet into that same place to help form the corner, and this will count as our first stitch. But let me show you what I've done. I'm going to work 68 single crochets evenly, and that's including this stitch and the stitch that I'm going to work in the next corner. Now I figured out a way that I can do that. I can divide the panel into even fourths. This blue marker marks the center, and you may not need a marker to mark that, but I just decided to go ahead and use it as a reference for myself. And so between from here to this blue mark is going to be 34 stitches. Now if you divide that number into 2, you'll get 17. So in between from here, including this stitch, to the first stitch marker, I'm going to work 17 stitches, and then from this stitch marker to the center, 17 more stitches, and again 17 and 17. Again, that's if you divide this up into fourths. But again, this is just a suggestion as to how you can crochet the 68 stitches evenly across. And it is very important that you have this number on both ends when we connect the poncho, and make sure that you do it the same, or work these stitches the same on both panels so that they match. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm just going to go ahead and work this, most of it off camera. So I'm going to work those 17 stitches, in between this corner and the first stitch marker. So I do have 17 stitches from this first stitch here to the stitch marker, and I'm going to leave that stitch marker in, and that's where I worked my 17th stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and work these 68 stitches across, and then I'll show you the next turn at the next corner. So now I have 68 stitches evenly spaced. I hope you enjoyed using these stitch markers. This helps me tremendously so I don't have to guess at this and rip it out here and there. If I have to rip out any stitches, it's just a matter of 17 and not 68. Now we're going to turn 90 degrees, chain 2, and we're going to work a single crochet in the same place as the last stitch. And by the way, that was the very first stitch of that foundation chain. And we're just going to work in the space, covering up those remaining loops of that foundation chain. And then after you do that, we're going to turn 90 degrees again, and we're going to do the same thing that we just did along this row end. So I'll go ahead and give that as an assignment since you already know what to do, and I'll show you the join at the end of this round. After working that 68 single crochet along the row ends. We're going to chain 2 and join with a slip stitch to that very first single crochet, and I'm going to go ahead and give it another chain and a tug so that I can fasten this off, just like that. And I can choose to hide my loose ends now, or I can wait to the very end. It's really up to you. But once you complete both of the panels, complete with the perimeter completed around each panel, we're going to put them together. So let me go ahead and show you how to connect these panels.
I've gone ahead and put the panels onto my blocking boards with my set of blocking pins, and I'll have information in the video description should you be interested in something like that. And what I'm simply going to do is just spray it with my spray bottle, which just has cold water in it. It's just a little bit of water. It's going to dampen everything, and then I'm going to let it air dry overnight, and this will help to give it more of the square shape and help with any curling ends before I connect the panels. Just for the record, it's okay if your numbers vary on this, but these panels, I have blocked them to 18 by 33 inches. Now that may pull back a little bit once I take them off, but that'll be okay. They will be the same shape.
So now we have both of our panels blocked and ready to be put together. And let me show you what I want you to do. We're going to put this long panel this way, and then again the front side facing down, and this panel is going in this direction. And I'm going to go ahead and slide this. So what we're going to do is we are going to connect these two this way. We're going to connect this. I found an easy way to do this is to use these knit clips. They're a lot easier than using pins that get lost in the carpet and family members find them, and that's not such a good thing. So what I'd recommend, and if you don't have these, it's okay, you can use pins or whatever. So I'm going to connect these two. Now notice what the front sides are going to be facing as I do this. So we're going to line these up stitch by stitch, but just right now, we're going to do a rough, a rough estimate here, which will be fine until we get to the actual stitching. And I'll show that to you in just a few minutes. Okay. Okay, so now once we have clipped this side together, this can be a little bit tricky to see, and I refer you to the diagram in the written pattern for this. Okay, so what we're going to do now is the section over here is going to come around, and it's going to join to the long section here. So let me go ahead and show you how this is going to do. Okay, so we're going to bring this right over here, and I know this looks like a big mess right now, but stick with me and you'll understand. So we're going to just join this. Again, I have lots of strands to hide, and I'm just going to do that at the end when I'll have much more fabric to work them into. Okay. Again, you don't have to have these lined up perfectly at this point. We're going to do that as we do the crocheting to them together, but this will just give us an idea that we are on the right track. Okay, so once we connect this side to this side, to the long end, so it's the short end to the long end here, and it's the other short end to the other long end, and when we hold it like this, we should get the shape of a poncho like that. Now, of course, the front sides need to be facing each other so that the seams will be on the inside. Okay, and this, by the way, this yarn is feeling amazing to me, to my fingers right now, so I'm looking forward to wearing this. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch these together for you. I'll show you what that looks like, and then after that we'll begin
working on the beautiful collar with the buttonholes. And we will also finish this lovely trim at the bottom, which is lovely. It's lace, and I think you're going to really enjoy it. To begin, make sure that you start on the end with the corner, not midway through the panel. Okay, so we're going to take the corner, chain 2 of each of these. I'm going to form a slip knot. And I am using the same crochet hook that I used, my gauge hook. But if you find that you want to use a smaller hook or a larger hook to do this, feel free to do that. You just want to make sure that the seam is not pulling too tightly or is too loose. Okay, so I'm going to pull through all of those layers, give it a chain, and pull that a little tightly. And now I'm going to line up each of these stitches, working through both sets of loops as I go, and I work a slip stitch. And I'm going to do this until I reach the end of this section. Let me show you where that's going to be. It's going to be, in this case, on the other side where the chain 2 corner is on one of the panels, and that's where I'm going to fasten off. Just wanted to give you a view of that. Both panels, both seams are going to be the same. Make sure that you, again, start from the end, which is where those chain 2 corners are, and then work your way down until you complete the slip stitches in the short panel, where the short panel ends, or the short side of the panel. Okay, so go ahead and work that, and I'll show you the fasten off at the end of the seam. Now I've come to the last couple of stitches. I wanted to work these with you so that you see what they look like. And then the last stitch here matched with that chain 2 corner. And let's go ahead and give it a nice firm. I'm going to do that one more time just to ensure it's going to be well hidden in the work anyway. Just to make sure this doesn't come undone, since it's a seam. Okay, so I'm going to hide that in my work, and nobody is going to see that. Let's turn and look at the seam. So here is the front side facing, and as you can see, you really don't see the seam at all. And if you wanted to damp block this a little bit, you can, but honestly, I don't think you're going to need to. I think the weight of the project is going to naturally weigh this down so that it will lay flat with use. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to finish the other seam, and then we'll start the collar and the bottom trim. Once you've completed both seams, go ahead and turn your poncho right side out. And so now we're going to begin working on the collar portion. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the center where these two are joined. This is going to be the front of the project. This will have a front and a back with the way that we're going to make this collar. So you want to mark, it doesn't matter which corner you use either, because both sides are the same. All right, so now once we've placed our stitch marker there, so we're going to join with a slip stitch in the 7th stitch. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is for the offset opening, and we're going to join in the back loop only. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to do my slip knot. And join the chain. And I'm going to work a single crochet in that same stitch, working in the back loop only. And in each of the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what will happen is when we work this all the way around for the offset collar, we're going to work in those front loops when we get to that, and that's where the overlap is going to be. Now, after working those 4 stitches, working only in the back loop, we're going to work in both loops until we get to the back center of the collar. So go ahead and work those single crochets, and then I'll show you what to do when we get to the little join, which is the back of the collar.
Okay, coming to the back of the collar, we have 3 stitches until we get to that center stitch. I'm going to have you work 3 half double crochets. And in that last stitch, we're going to work, or in the center stitch, right there where they were joined, go ahead and work a double crochet. After working that double crochet, we have a chain 2. Let's go ahead and work a half double in that stitch, and in the next 2 single crochets, just like that. So after working those 2 half double crochets in those 2 stitches, let's go ahead and return to single crochets. So we're going to work single crochets until we get to the front section of the collar, and I will show you what to do at that point. As we approach the front, we're going to do what we did at the back. We're going to work a half double crochet in those 2 stitches before the center stitch, and let's go ahead and remove our stitch marker. And in the center stitch, we're going to work a double crochet, and then in the next 2 stitches, we're going to work half double crochets. Now, also, I should have pointed this out earlier. You can have the chain 2 space and then a single crochet very close together. So you want to make sure that you work in both of them so as to not leave a gap. And then we're going to work single crochets in the stitches that have not been worked. And then we come to the stitches where we worked only in the back loop. And we're going to go ahead and work in the front loop of those 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let me show you. So you'll have stitches in the back and stitches in the front. And this is, again, where the offset collar is going to join. Now we're ready to begin the ribbing. And this is going to be single crochet ribbing as opposed to post ribbing. So this is going to be a little bit different if you followed some of my other patterns. You may actually enjoy this version. Okay, we're going to chain 21 chains. After completing the 21 chains, we are going to single crochet starting in the 2nd chain from the hook and in each chain across. After completing those 20 single crochets, we come to the collar, and this is with the back side facing. We're going to work a slip stitch in that first single crochet and then slip stitch in that 2nd single crochet, chain 1, and now we're going to turn to work in the stitches in the single crochets, but we're going to work only in the back loop. And as you do this, make sure that you're careful not to work in the 2 chains or the slip stitch in the chain, because you can easily add in additional stitches. And a good way to keep from doing that is to make sure that as you count along the way that you're counting to 20 each time. And again, notice that I am working only in the back loop of these stitches, and this is what's going to give us the ribbed effect. Okay, so go ahead and work in the back loop, work those single crochets across, and I'll show you the next turn. After that chain 1, we're going to begin working in the single crochets. Now do be careful because you have the chain and the 2 slip stitches here, and if you work in this stitch, you're going to be adding in additional stitches. You don't want to do that. The single crochets begin here. So let me go ahead and, again, working in the back loops only, I'm going to single crochet in each of those single crochets all the way across. And again, count, count, count so that you get the correct amount if you're not sure. So I'm going to go ahead and work my 20 single crochets working in the back loop, and I'll show you the turn. I'm going to show you the last stitch just to make sure we get that last one, and I have counted, there are 20. Chain 1, I'm going to turn, and again working in the back loops, I'm going to work a single crochet in each of these 20 stitches, and you can already see the ribbed effect that we're getting on both sides of this collar, which is really pretty cool. After working those 20 stitches, again working in the stitches of the collar, working slip stitch in that next stitch and in the next one, chain 1, turn, and we go back to repeating again. Make sure that you start in the first stitch single crochet, which is right here, not here. That again, we have a chain and 2 slip stitches and then begin the single crochet. So those are the ones you want to work in. So go ahead and repeat this all the way around the collar, and I'll show you how this ends. All right, I'm working on the collar, and I have 1, 2, 3 single crochets left, and this is the section that is overlapping, or actually underlapping, however you want to say. So now I am on the other end at the tip of the collar, and I'm going to start working to join in this stitch. So now I'm going to start the row with the buttonholes with the chain 1, and I'm still going to work in the back loop as I do this. Single crochet in the back loop only of the first 2 stitches, chain 2, skip 2, and then we're going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches. Let's go through all the strands. There we go. Let me pause here. So we have 2 single crochets, chain 2, skip 2, then 4 single crochets. Now we're going to make one more buttonhole, chain 2, skip 2, and then single crochet to the neck edge, just the way we've been doing all along. Once we come to the neck edge, we work a slip stitch in that next stitch and a slip stitch in the next, chain 1 and turn, and we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch, again working in the back loop until we get to the buttonhole. So go ahead and work the single crochets until you get to that chain 2 for the buttonhole. And for the record, that is 10 single crochets from the first until we get to the buttonhole. Once we get to that chain 2 space, we're going to work 2 single crochets in there, and then single crochet in the back loop only of the next 4 stitches. And then 2 single crochets in that next chain 2 space. And then single crochet in the back loop of the last 2 stitches in this row. So you see you have the buttonholes. And for the last row, we're going to chain 1, turn, and we're back to working in the back loop only of each stitch all the way across. After working those 20 single crochets, we're going to join with a slip stitch in the last single crochet, and then go ahead and fasten off. And then we can hide our loose ends. And the other thing, let me show you. So now we have our collar complete, and when you find the buttons that you would like, you can just simply line them up. You can fold this down if you wish. Line them up with the 2 buttonholes here and here, and sew them carefully onto this collar. It's going to be on the inside as you're looking at this, but what will happen is this will fold downward if you don't want to button it. And I think it looks really nice with it off-centered. You have the buttonholes here, and then you can show off your beautiful buttons that you select right here and here. Okay, again, lining them up just like I showed you. Now, of course, once you button them and you bring this down, the poncho wears like a turtleneck, which is quite beautiful and nice and warm when the weather is cold outside. All right, well, let's go on and show you how to work the lace at the end or the bottom of this poncho. All right, we're going to start the bottom edging by starting in the chain 2 corner, which is the back corner of the poncho. So make sure that you start in the back section. And I'm going to join with a slip knot and a chain, making a slip knot, then a chain 1, actually a chain 4, 2, 3, 4. This chain 4 counts as a double crochet plus a chain 1, and go ahead and work a double crochet in that same chain 2 space, forming a corner for what we're about to do. Now we're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the next stitch, which is right here, and we're going to work a double crochet. Let's go ahead and prepare the hook better than that. A double crochet in that next stitch, chain 1, skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next stitch, etc., all the way until you get to the next chain 2 corner. And just for clarity, when you get to the part where the panels were joined, the chain 2s also count as a stitch. So I use this one. I'm going to skip this one and just continue on with the single crochets once I pass that join. I've worked all the way across to the next corner. I'm going to skip that next stitch, and then I'm going to work a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet for that corner. And for the record, not including the 2 corners, we have 95 double crochets along the long edge. So after we do that, we're going to continue with this with a chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then double crochet in the next stitch, and just continue this until we get to the next corner. Double crochet, chain 1, skip the next stitch, etc. So go ahead and continue that, and I will show you the join. At the end of round 1, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. Actually, it's a chain 4, but we're joining in the chain 3. I'm going to chain 1, and we're going to work a single crochet to start round 2. And we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to work a single crochet in that next single crochet. So we're going to be making loops to be working our lace in. Now we're going to do this again. Chain 5. And we're going to work in the next single crochet. Now we're going to chain 5 again. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to skip the next chain 1 space, and we're going to work in the next space. And we're going to do this all the way until we get near the next corner. Chain 5, skip the next space, single crochet in that next space. So go ahead and work that until you approach the next corner of the poncho. After working this to the next corner of the poncho, go ahead and work a single crochet, working in the stitch rather than in the chain 1 space. And then we're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Skip that chain 1 space and work in the top of the stitch right there. And again, chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And instead of working in the next stitch, we're going to skip the next chain 1 space and we're going to work in the next chain 1 space. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make each end of the poncho look symmetrical, and this should be the 51st chain 5 from the beginning, and that way you will have the large shell cluster in both of the points of the poncho. It's really important that this is an odd numbered loop in your project so that this will come out mathematically. So now we're going to work this all the way down until we get to the very starting stitch. Again, skipping 1 chain 1 space and then single crochet in the next. So go ahead and work that, and I'll show you the join at the end of the round. At the end of this round, we're going to chain 5 again, and we're going to make this one look symmetrical by working in the next double crochet. Again, we're working in the chain 1 spaces. We're going to skip the next double crochet in that chain 1 space, work a single crochet in the top of that double crochet, chain 5, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round, just like that. So now to begin round number 3, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to work in the last chain 5 completed. We're going to reach back. This is the opposite direction, and we're going to work a single crochet in that last chain. Okay, you're going to be going back to the right if you're right-handed, and you're going to be going to the left if you're left-handed. After that, working in the next chain 5 space, we're going to only be working in the chain 5 spaces from this point on. We're going to work 12 double crochets in that chain space. After working those 12 double crochets, work a single crochet in that next stitch, chain 5, and a single crochet in the next chain 5 space. After we do that, we're going to repeat the pattern by working 12 double crochets. And again, after working those 12 double crochets, we single crochet in the next chain 5 space, chain 5, and then work another single crochet in that next chain 5 space. And then again, after that, we're going to work 12 double crochets in that next space. So this is going to be what we work all the way around. So go ahead and work this until you get to the next corner. And then I'll show you how to adjust so that this becomes the point on the other side of the poncho. Now we're approaching the next corner of the poncho, and let me show you how we're going to work this. We're going to work a single crochet in that single crochet rather than in the chain. We're going to chain 5, and now we're going to single crochet in the chain, just like that. And don't worry, this will look fine. After that, we get to the corner. I just want to make sure that you have the 12 double crochets worked in that corner. After having worked those 12 single crochets, we're going to single crochet in that next chain 5, and we're going to work a single crochet in that next single crochet, just the way we did on the other side, so that both sides are symmetrical. Okay? And then after that, we are going to work 12 double crochets in the very next chain 5 space before continuing in our regular pattern stitch on this round. After working those 12 double crochets, like I said before, we're going to resume in the pattern stitch by working a single crochet in that next chain 5 space, 5 chains, and then a single crochet. After that single crochet in that last chain 5 space, then we go back to working the 12 double crochets in the chain 5 space. So go ahead and continue working this until you get to the beginning of the round. At the end of the round, you should have one loop, which is where the single crochet began. So we're going to crochet that last chain 5, and we're going to join with a slip stitch to that very single crochet. So this is what you should have at the end of round number 3. So now on to round number 4. We're going to chain 2, and we're going to go backwards again. We're going to work a single crochet in the chain to the right, or it will be to the left for the left-handed version. After we do that, we're going to make 3 double crochets together, and we're going to be working in the double crochets of these large shells. And this is how we're going to do that. We're going to wrap the hook, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. We're going to do that 2 more times. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 stitches or 2 loops. Yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Again, we should have 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over and pull through all 4 of those. And that is the double crochet cluster. After that, we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to do that again over the next 3 stitches. After that chain 5, we're going to make another double crochet cluster over the next 3 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops, chain 5, and do another one in the next 3 stitches. Yarn over, pull through all 4 loops, and again chain 5. And do it one more time. Yarn over, pull through all 4 loops. After working that, we're going to single crochet in that chain 5 space, and we're going to work these clusters all over again. I'm going to do these a little bit faster this time, since you should understand what we're doing. All 4 loops, through, cluster made. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains. And we're going to do that 3 more times, or at least 2 more times, because the last repeat we will not make the 5 chains. And another cluster. Yarn over, pull all through all 4 loops on the hook, chain 5, and then the last one. And yarn over, and then we get to that next chain 5 in between the shells. We just work a single crochet there. All right, so go ahead and work that all the way around. At the end of round 4, we're going to join with a slip stitch to that very first single crochet of the round. Okay, so this is what you should have after completing 4 rounds. And now for the 5th round, which is the last round, we're going to go ahead and single crochet. We're going to single crochet also in the same place as joining. So after that first single crochet of the round, we're going to now work in the chain 5 space. And this is what we're going to work in each of these spaces. We're going to work a single crochet, chain 3. We're going to slip stitch in the top of the single crochet, forming a little picot. We're going to do this again, single crochet, chain 3, and then slip stitch by working into the top of that single crochet, and do this again, single crochet, chain 3, and a slip stitch into the top of that single crochet, and then work another single crochet in that space, thereby forming 3 picots. Again, skip the cluster, and then working into the next chain space, we're going to single crochet, chain 3, and again slip stitch into the top of that single crochet, and do that 3 times, single crochet, chain 3, and slip stitch, and another one, single crochet, chain 3, and a slip stitch, and then a single crochet by itself. Okay, so go ahead, and we're going to do this one more time in this next space, single crochet, chain 3, slip stitch, single crochet, chain 3, and again slip stitch in the top of that single crochet, and the 3rd time, single crochet, chain 3, and a slip stitch right in the top, and then another single crochet. Now, after you've worked that 3 times within those 3 chain 5 spaces, then we work a single crochet in that next single crochet that is in between these big clusters and shells. All right, and then just repeat that all the way around. After working this all the way around, we're going to join with a slip stitch to that very first single crochet of the round. Let's go ahead and give it a chain and a tug, and make sure you clip a generous amount. There you go. So I am also going to now hide all my loose strands. After I do that, I am going to put the border of this project onto the blocking mats. I may have to do this in 2 parts, where I do one side and then the other because of the shape of the poncho, but I will include some photos of that at the end of this video so that you can see what that looks like. I hope you enjoyed making the Inishmann poncho with me today. If you did, I would love to hear from you. Please feel free to comment below. God bless. Bye-bye.